Indonesia's latest energy plan is raising concerns about its climate commitments as it aims to expand coal generation and delay its emissions peak until 2037. That's 7 years later than the low carbon scenario recommends. To discuss this, we have Dodi Setyawan from Ember and Catherine Hassan from the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air. So, how does Indonesia's latest electricity master plan differ from the low carbon scenario? Dottie, would you like to go first?
Under the low carbon scenario, unabated coal generation should peak at 435 terawatt hour in 2030 and then decline to 180 terawatt hour by 2050. However, the electricity master plan projected later peak at 482 terawatt hour in 2037 with a slower decline to 290 terawatt hour by 2050. This reflects a 7-year delay in the coal peak and also higher reliance on unabated coal in the long run. Furthermore, the electricity master plan is also not aligned with JETB's target to peak grid emissions before 2030.
We should also remember that the low carbon scenario, the long-term strategy for low carbon and climate resilience for 2050 was developed in 2021. So, and a lot has happened since then. There are many assumptions that really differ in this recently released National Electricity Plan. So there's ambitious economic growth up to 7% through from now to 2045. And of course, we have captive power generation tagged to support energy-intensive industries here, the first time ever that's really outlined in the national regulation. Also, there's a preferred strategy for coal phase down through biomass co-firing and also ammonia retrofitting. So that's a bit of a surprise somehow, or something to push against. And there is also green hydrogen production mentioned in the plan. So a lot of things has changed since 2021, and we hope to continue to maybe support the government to aim higher.
I guess the main question that our viewers would have is why this is a concern. So, Catherine, what are the risks of increasing coal generation until 2037?
So I would like to maybe elaborate on captive power there. And maybe one step back, we actually did a study back in 2023 looking at retirement pathways for Indonesia and how that would imply in terms of emissions and clean air in closer review. And I think it is very clear that Indonesia must clearly map its retirement pathway, not just for grid electricity, grid coal power, grid connected coal power plants, but also captive. We have a clear recommendation that phase out should be ambitious, ideally by 2040, if we want to align with the 1.5 degree scenario for climate. Or at the very least aligning with the on-grid ambition that's already outlined in the presidential regulation number 112 released in 2022. So this is a key policy that should be kept in mind by everybody following this issue. And yeah, I think just the fact that captive power that's linked to industries will rise to a large extent, there will be a big increase in emissions. Yes, and so the risk is, of course, to trail away from the pathway that we should pursue, aligning with the climate targets, but also there will be creation of new pollution hotspots in Indonesia, particularly Eastern Indonesia, and this will bring us further from the just transition aspects, which, of course, the country has committed to.
Yeah, emphasizing what was mentioned by Catherine, we foresee two major risks. The first one is emission risk, that extending coal generation beyond 2030 will significantly increase carbon emissions from the power sector. It also comes with an opportunity cost as reliance on coal could delay the transition to renewables energy because ideally the future demand should be met with renewables and not coal. Additionally, increased coal generation will lead to higher carbon dioxide and methane emissions from the mining process, which often neglected by the mining companies when reporting their emissions. The second one is financial risk. And with the implementation of the emission trading system for coal-fired power plants, continued coal operation will lead to higher costs for plant owners. Additionally, For new captive coal plants, they can only operate until 2050, and they must cut their emissions by 35% after operations, and they are not eligible for capped coal price, which could further increase the financial uncertainty for captive coal operation. Therefore, increasing coal generation is counterproductive, especially as the cost of renewables is declining and it's already competitive with coal.
So, in summary, Dodi, how could Indonesia align its energy plan with global climate goals?
Yes, we have three recommendations for the government. And the first one is to ensure that planned renewable projects in PLN's business plan and committed ZP-CIPP documents are implemented on schedule. Otherwise, the future demand will be met again by coal. And then the second one is to replace unallocated captive projects with renewables to enable earlier peak of power sector emissions. And then the third one is to apply uniform emission standard for both grid-connected and captive coal, and start implementing the second phase of the emission trading system covering captive coal projects.
I would just like to echo Dodi's remarks there. There's a big opportunity, of course, to align climate and clean air initiatives here. And also, I think I would just like to include that decision makers in Indonesia should well recognize the opportunities to gauge ambition. First, I guess strictly limiting fossil addition. We still have quite a big portion of coal and gas, particularly in the pipeline. Why not expand our targets? Indonesia should no longer delay the greening of the grid. We know that as a fact. The benefits are too high, and we can aim higher looking at how clean technologies are deployed currently. And say, look at China's rapid scale of deployment. And second, I guess Indonesia has aimed for the golden Indonesia target in 2045. And for this, we must invest in the future now. And this means only looking at renewables or really focusing a big focus on renewables. Growth ambition can only be realized if we really tap into our country's potential, which is very vast, and we should position ourselves very well in the global supply chain for clean technologies.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Dodi and Catherine. Looking forward to having you both back on the program.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Once again, those were Dodi Satyawan, Senior Climate and Energy Analyst at Ember, and Catherine Hassan, Analyst at the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air. For more news, visit esgbusiness.com.